2026 NFL draft prospects with the most pressure entering the 2025 college football season. Arch Manning leads off the list, and here's why.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I'm an NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He's the director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our every Dayers. Guys, we got a fun one. It's the pressure meter. We're putting some players for the 2026 NFL draft under the pressure meter. Who's under the most pressure heading into the 2025 college football season? Arch Manning, Drew Allar, Cade Klubnik, Carson Beck, Jordan Tyson, Anthony Hill Jr., the star linebacker pass rusher for Texas. But before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Arch Manning. Keith, this is what I thought about, but I went with Drew Allar. You picked Arch. Tell the people why Arch is under the most pressure, in your opinion, heading into this college football season.
Yeah, it's as simple as the last name, right? The reason why we talk about it, right? And it just goes with the lineage thing, right? We've seen it with Bronny James. We've seen it with, Michael Jordan's son in the past, right? All of these guys who are following legends, or following in the footsteps of legends. And is his father Peyton or Eli? No, but he has that Manning name, right? So there's an expectation to be great.
3 QBs in the family, in the bloodline.
Yeah,
three of them in the bloodline.
3 QBs. So the thing is that he can't even be average, right? Like it's a blessing, and because we do this so much, right? Just to make it to the NFL, right? If you're a third round pick, like that's a blessing. But your floor, right, is number 1 overall. Like that's your floor as a Manning, and which is crazy, right? Like if you get picked number 10 and you're not considered the best QB in your class, then you're like, okay, well, I didn't live up to the Manning height. So that's why I went with Arch, just because everybody's going to talk about it. Everything's going to be critiqued. I've already seen reports, DP, from one scrimmage where it said that it looked all, I think Arch Manning looked flustered or something like that. And that's the reports that are going to go viral, right? Like if he missed one throw and it's like, oh, Arch had a bad day, right? And it's like, it's not necessarily, right? So I'm excited about him. Like I told you, man, watching that, when we did our our evaluation, so that way we could do our kind of scouting notebook, obviously going through Arch Manning, and he had one big data point, right, of the 3 or 4 starts he had, is when he played Mississippi State. And watching him against Mississippi State was some of the best quarterback play, like one single game that I've seen from probably any draft prospect, right? Like he was able to dot the I's and cross the T's, but he's probably going to have to do that every single week, DP, and things are going to go viral. And I'll say this, that just the media landscape is so different than what it was 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when his uncles were going through this, right? Everybody has a voice. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has the opportunity to go viral. Everybody is honestly their own media outlet at this point, right? And so whatever narrative that people want to start to drive, they can start to drive that narrative instantly. And so he has to kind of just be on his P's and Q's, which is unfortunate because he should be able to grow, right, and get through the process, just as a collegiate quarterback. Like they're going to be peaks and valleys, but unfortunately his valleys are going to be, I think, critiqued a lot more.
Oh, 100%, Keith. Like you said, the from the social media standpoint, that's a great point of view anyway, because think about Peyton when he started in Indianapolis. Kid, he threw for more than, Jesus Christ, 1998. I think it was his rookie year or his sophomore year, freshman year, whatever. He threw 28 interceptions. In today's NFL, Jameis threw 30, and people ridiculed him throughout for the rest of his career. The man who threw 30 for 30. They say he's a walking 30 for 30. He threw 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Peyton threw 26 touchdowns in 1988 as a 22-year-old and 28 interceptions, right? The next year, 15 and 15. His 4th year in the league, 2001, he threw 23 interceptions. So you're talking about in the first 4 years, you threw over 20 interceptions twice. Yeah, that's not going down in this day and age. So I'm with you, and I'll add this point before I transition to Drew Allar. Keith, for me with Arch, it's the fact of I think the pressure is there because we wanted him. Most of us wanted him over Quinn. Just to be completely honest, we wanted him to play over Quinn because we felt like he brought more upside and more just big playability and everything from his legs to his arm, everything to this Texas offense than what Quinn was able to bring last year. And maybe if he started, before the Georgia game on through, like maybe they win split one of those two games with Georgia. We don't know, but I think that's where the pressure comes in too. It's like a lot of people wanted you to be the quarterback over Quinn. That fan base. So I'll transition, man. I'm going right to Drew Allar. And that I'm a big Drew Allar fan. I love his potential, his tools, everything like that. And one of the things that we talked about after the season was over, they didn't have any receivers. It was just Tyler Warren and Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen, the two running backs. Now you got I think it's Kyron Hudson from USC. They brought in, I think his name's Devontae, like a shifty slot receiver from Temple. And then they brought in Trevor Pena, who can play that movement Z slot role from Syracuse. Drew Allar's under a ton of pressure. And to me, he's under the most pressure because as a prospect, remember, Keith, we got on this show right before the playoffs started. So if he has a run in the CFP, we said on this pod, he probably might declare. Because the NFL, now I remember talking to some folks, I'm like, what's the vibe right now? And it was like, if he balls out, the NFL's going to go, they're going to be calling for him to enter the draft. And not just into the draft, Keith, it was at the point where he was going, he was the guy that was viewed as the QB2 behind Cam Ward if he came out. So it's like, we thought it was going to be Shedeur Sanders, and the NFL said, not so fast, my friends. Like we saw, who had a really good showing in his first preseason game, Jackson Dart for the Giants. He's the QB2. They traded up for him. Probably would have been Drew Allar if he had to finish not saying he won a national championship, but not finish that Notre Dame game with the game-ending pick and things like that, right? Like he protected the ball, played better. If they lost and just lost, whatever. But he was absolutely viewed by the NFL circles as being QB2 and a top 5 pick. With that type of buzz, with you going back to school, you don't have the excuses of no wide receivers now, right? You have no excuses. And I was talking to somebody, and he gave me, I can't remember the kid's name right now, but they have a 5-star tight end. They said to keep my eyes on. So if you got a really talented young tight end, 3 good receivers that mesh well together, and a really good play caller, there's no excuses for you. Clean up your decision-making, clean up your mechanics and your footwork, make the right decisions with the football, and you will see your stock rise back to the top of this class.
Yeah, and real quick, before we transition, I'm going to say this. The pressure's on them, too, because they brought everybody back, DP, and you bring everybody back to win a national championship, and we know that Penn State's run game is there, right? And everybody's trying to duplicate what Ohio State did, right? Bring your guys back, get a couple guys in the transfer portal, but they're going to have that 2-back system just like Ohio State did, right? The difference between Drew Allar and what Will Howard did, when you jumped into the film, you realized that Will Howard made game-winning throws. And Drew Allar is going to have to do that. There are going to be moments where the run game is not going to be able to keep pace with some of these teams that score a lot of points, right? You're getting potentially get into a shootout with an LSU. Drew, you're going to have to show up. You're going to have to throw for 3. You're going to have to throw for 325 and 3 touchdowns this game, right? And we'll see what he's able to do. But I agree, Drew Allar, the pressure is on you going into this season. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing, man. We have a couple more quarterbacks coming up next, man. We're talking Mr. Cade Klubnik. Yes, the pressure's on you. Mr. Carson Beck, 305. You're in Miami now. The pressure is on you. Let's talk about those two guys coming up next.
This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and the Locked On NFL Draft podcast are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's only one team left standing. With this season already around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're more into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. So stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. Great minds think alike, Keith, because when you sent me your list of names, I already had Cade Klubnik on mine. And I say, it's to me, Keith, it's simple. You have arguably, and Georgia fans, do not at me on Twitter. Don't feel disrespected. All right. Texas fans, same thing. Clemson, to me, has the best roster in college football. Like, the what they have offensively, offensive line, like they have 4 or 5 stars on the offensive line. They have a 5-star sophomore receiver, Brian Wesco, 4-star outside receiver, TJ Moore. Antonio Williams has first-round buzz right now heading into the season, right? Now the run game is going to be a little different. They got some young guys that have to run the ball and everything. But then we talk about their defense. Avion Terrell, Peter Woods, TJ Parker, Wade Woodaz. They have safeties. Like Sammy Brown's a 5-star linebacker heading into his sophomore year, who was also a 5-star running back out of Georgia. Like, you have so much on this team. You are viewed as a national championship contender. Cade, you're the key to that. If you play to the level that we know you can play to, there's not a team that should be able to beat you guys on a week in and week out basis. Like, you're that good of a roster. Now, of course, Dabo, you got to coach. You got to call these games right. You know what I mean? You got to do your part. But from a roster standpoint, y'all are loaded. And Cade, if you don't play up to your level and you make bad decisions or different things like that, you're going to tank this team, which essentially will tank your draft stock. So for me, that's why I view Cade Klubnik as having so much pressure on him. There's literally no excuses. You got the offensive coordinator, you got Dabo Swinney, you have the roster offensively and defensively. You got to go out here and perform, big fella.
Yeah, I look at it like this, DP, just the natural progressions with Cade Klubnik. Year one of him as a starter was, and I mean, if we're being completely honest and being transparent, right, it was a lot of bad Cade Klubnik, right? Then last year was good, some bad. This year needs to be all good. All good, right? Like, this what this year needs to be. And so you outlined the roster and you followed it up with, they can have between 3 and 5 first rounders, not just draft picks, first round picks. And so when you get a roster like that, and I think for whatever reason, and it's probably because Clemson hasn't, since 2019, it's been kind of weird for them, right? The DJU situation, and then follow that up with Cade, right? They haven't kind of been in a national championship contention, but I don't know if you agree, but this roster is not only the best one, but they should be favorites to win the championship, right? Like it's that good and that talented that across the board, y'all should be able to win like this. These rosters are the rosters of how Alabama used to have back in the day, and Georgia used to have, and to where it's like, man, like, yep, all of those guys are proven collegiate players that are on their way to the NFL. They should win a national championship. So Cade has to play well. It can't be situations and moments. That was last year, opening week, right, when they played Georgia, and it looked like a mismatch. It looked like Clemson was not on par. And the truth of the matter is that offensively, they had to get going. They have to do some things. But
the defense did their job in that game. The offense didn't come to play. And it's like, Cade, you got to – and Keith, to your point, it increased the SEC over ACC conversations because you're viewed as the top ACC team against the top SEC team. And by the time the end of the score made it look like you weren't on this, you didn't belong on the same field. Where if you watch the game, it was a close game going in the halftime. If you just handle your business offensively, and I think that's the thing, handling pressure, things like that, Cade's got to get better with that. And I think with this team, like, dude, you could be a top 10 pick when this thing is all over with. Like, legitimately, you could be a top 10 pick and everything. So Cade's got to handle business, Keith. But Carson Beck, man, 305, Keith. Man, Like, this was a guy that I think I still had a second round grade on coming out. Like, if he didn't have the Tommy, I think it was a Tommy John surgery on his elbow, something like that. I think he had the same injury Brock Purdy had a couple of seasons ago in the playoffs with the elbow. And needed surgery, was going to be out for a couple of weeks, stuff like that. If he didn't have that and he still declared for the draft, I think he's like, we saw Tyler Shuck go top 40.
Right.
Like, I think the Saints probably look at Carson Beck, who was more consistent throughout his career, even though last year was an up and down year, but it wasn't just an up and down year for Carson Beck, it was an up and down year for Georgia. So it's like, you put everything in context, it's like, it wasn't just a quarterback. It's like things just didn't click for Georgia last year. The offensive line didn't play well. Their receivers, like we had their top 2 receivers got into legal trouble. It was a lot that went on that really nobody can control. You know what I mean? So for me, when I look at Carson Beck, Keith, like it's a lot of pressure. You're following up the first overall pick in the NFL draft, who also had a good showing in his first preseason game, Cam Ward. Cam Ward came in and changed. We talked about it during the season last year. Cam Ward gave the Miami fans a reason to say the U is back. Keith, how long have they been waiting to say that? It's been years, decades even, feels like, that they've been waiting to say the U is back. And they were very close to making the ACC championship game if their defense played good ball. It was Cam Ward or bust week in and week out. You can't do that with Carson Beck. He's not that type of talent that to be able to just go out there and carry the team, throw 50 times a game, and literally make the throws and make the plays. Also the off-script stuff, the handling pressure. Like, he doesn't have that as much in the, not that he's not a functional enough athlete. Straight line, he can get you 5 to 10 yards for sure. Maybe sometimes 15 if it depends on where the defenders are. But Cam was out there just doing things in the pocket that Carson Beck's not going to be able to do. They're going to have to protect him. And after coming off a successful season they had last year, you can't go back into the dweller. You can't fall back into the basement after reaching the attic. You can't do that if you're Miami. And Carson Beck has to come in there and play complimentary football. Don't go chasing the ghost of Cam Ward. Well, and I think that's my biggest thing. Don't go chasing that ghost. Play your game and try to elevate them your way, not the way Cam Ward did it.
Yeah, and if I could jump in, you said complimentary football, DP. The angle I was going to take is that, is he going to be able to play complimentary football? Because he kind of took himself out of a situation where he had the opportunity to, hey, I don't have to win this game, right? And being in Miami, I don't think their roster was overhauled enough to say that, okay, we can get away with Carson Beck playing a subpar game or a bad game and still winning. That was the case at Georgia. You can play bad and your defense can have 2-3 interceptions, 6 sacks, and a run game and get out of the game with a win. That's not going to be the case in Miami. If you don't play at least good, you're not going to win the game. So you kind of removed that kind of buffer zone for yourself to where, DP, I say the pressure's on because from a draft stock perspective, I think this thing is either boom or bust. It's either going to end with Carson Beck throwing for 30 touchdowns next year and, slinging the rock all over the field, or it's going to end in, man, that was not good, right? Because of the situations. And like you said, it ties into what you talked about with Cam Ward and the scramble ability, athleticism. Carson Beck is a solid athlete, but I don't know if he has that. And it's more so the quick twitch reaction, right? The reactionary athleticism to be able to react to pressure, get out of there, evade things, stuff like that. I just hope that it doesn't end with us seeing Carson Beck run for his life. And then instead of him escaping, a lot of things are ending in sacks, picks, tip throws, overthrows, and interceptions, right?
They got to run the ball too, Keith. They didn't do that enough with Cam Ward to protect that defense. They had 2 really good running backs last year. Mark Fletcher, I think was a 4 or 5 star, and Damian Martinez. You should have ran the ball more. Take some of that off of Cam and help your defense out with longer drives, draining clock. I think you're going to have to do if that defense. Ruben Bain's healthy now, so expect him to be that game changer that he was as a freshman. But it's everybody else in that defense you have to worry about. That secondary, those guys were young and they got beat a lot last year, right? That last game against Kyle McCord, he looked like a first-round pick in that game. McCord was slinging it. You got to be able to protect your defense with the run game, which encounter helps protect Carson Beck. If they don't do that, Keith, this season's not going to go the way they wanted to go. It's going to put too much pressure on Beck to be able to try and put them on his shoulders and carry them to the finish line. It's just not. It's not a good recipe for success.
Yep, I agree 100% with DP. We're going to Arizona State, man. We're going to talk about Mr. Jordan Tyson, and we're going to talk about Texas linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. Why is the pressure on them? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
We've all been there, logging on early and waiting for forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. So, fellas, that Beyonce, that Chris Brown, that Usher, whatever artist your lady, your significant other wants to go to, hey, why not choose Game Time? Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets and show tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot, for being our everydayers. Jordan Tyson. This is a guy that when you watch the tape, separation, route running, all of that's in his bag. And right now he's viewed for a lot of people as one of the top three wide receivers entering college football season for the 2026 NFL Draft. Keith, why is Jordan Tyson on the pressure meter for you?
Yeah, because so first you talked about where they started, right? As far as he's looked at as potentially a top 2 or 3 wide receiver, right? Then so the expectation for him to have production, that's the first thing. Secondly, he didn't transfer, meaning that the quarterback didn't transfer, meaning that they should have the same connection, right? So the expectations of whatever they produced last year should be even more, because I think he was injured a game or two, right?
The Texas game in the CFP.
So you have more expectation that, like, hey, the same production should be able to happen because we have the same equation. Now, the reason why I also say that pressure is on him is because he's at Arizona State. And this is no slight to Arizona State. I'm about to get into the media part of it, right? Yeah. Is that, you know, we've seen obviously what Brandon Ayuk came out of there, but and Kill Harry, right? And you know, we know how this media landscape is. What's going to happen is if Jordan Tyson doesn't start off hot or he's not playing well, people say, oh, that's why you got to stay away from this Arizona State wide receiver, right? And is it fair? Nope. But we're on this show. We're not talking about fair. We're talking about what could potentially happen at the end of the day. And that's why I see this young man has a lot of pressure on us, because it's those people that are waiting to kind of make the running joke, right? And it's probably running jokes for us, DP.
Helmet scouting
that we despise, right? We despise that. Like, treat every prospect differently in every situation, but he's going to have that pressure because I think he's going to have to. He has built-in haters, right? Like, and it's going to have that because people are going to want to be the first to call out, oh, this guy might be a bust because of, you know, past wide receivers in the past that came from this school. So I think that's what's going to happen, DP.
100%. I think that's very true, because at the end of the day, like,
and it's not just, I just thought about this, and playing in the Big 12, right? We know there's a moniker around Big 12 wide receivers.
I was about to say that it's you know, the TCU receivers, the Big 12 receivers. Yeah. Oh, I don't want Savion Williams. I don't want Quentin Johnson. I don't want this guy. Like, it's been a lot of Big 12 receivers that have not panned out, but then you get a CeeDee Lamb that has panned out. You get guys who, like, you got to look at it for both spectrums, like there's success and there's failures in every conference. So, I think with Jordan Tyson now, because I think for what it was, Keith, is last year, and this is one of my monikers I always stick to. When there's no expectations and you could just ball, right? Like, you just ball. But when there's expectations comes pressure. And when you come off the season he just had, and truthfully, you would have been the difference maker for Arizona State in that game against Texas, which went down to the wire in OT. Right, Sam Levitt was out there just kind of Cam Skadaboo or bust in that game offensively. They didn't have really anybody else to get the ball to consistently. And you think about him being out there, he probably would have saw a lot of Jahdae Barron and everything, but still, like, the way they move him around, he probably would have found a way to get 100 yards in that game, and you could have been the tipping point that helped your team get further in the CFP. And it would have been what, Arizona State versus Ohio State. We'll see how that would have went, right? It would have been fun to see, but like, he would have been the tipping point. So now going into the 2025 season, The pressure is on because people know you now. People are aware of you now. People are excited about your game, and which is a good thing. But at the same time, it brings pressure because there are expectations that people say, look, I expect 1,400 yards from you. You don't lose I don't think that the OC is still there. I think you don't lose your quarterback, right? You brought a lot of the same players back to this team, and you won the Big 12. Now you got Texas Tech, on your heels. You got other teams in the Big 12 getting better. You gotta go out there and handle business. Keith, I go right to Texas in the SEC.
I'm interested to hear this because this was one guy I never would have thought of. So I'm interested to hear what your angle is with the pressure on this one.
It's very simple, Keith. For me, Anthony Hill Jr. is under a lot of pressure because he needs to tell us who he is. What are you? Like, what are you as a defender? Because
Can I ask?
He came in. Yeah, go
very
ahead.
differently, but to put in a context for the listeners, is it similar to the Harold Perkins situation for you, where you're trying to figure out what are you, and totally different players, the different body types, things like that. But I'm asking you, is that the angle that you're taking with this?
Yeah, that's basically it for me. Like, just are you because I remember when we did the eval for him, I said he's this year's Jihad Campbell, right? Yeah. And I was like, but to me, Jihad was a better off-ball backer than he was. This dude is a pass rusher. He is freaking good. Like, move, speed, all of it, elusiveness, agility. Like, he can rush the passer. And I think when he came in as a freshman, he rushed the passer a lot, and then they transitioned to more off-ball, that hybrid role. What are you? Because, like, when you look at his measurements, he's listed at 6'3", 240 pounds. So it's like, okay, you have the body type of off-ball backer and everything. Athleticism is there. I think instinctively, I want to see him just continue to improve in terms of reading and diagnosing plays quicker, stuff like that. He triggers the run game really quickly. Like, he triggers the run game quick. But at the end of the day, for me, I was like, you see him lined up on the edge, and I'm like, yeah, this dude might be better off as an edge rusher, Keith. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. Like, I think this dude could be an absolute stud of an edge rusher. Long arms, power, speed, all of it. And it's like, so could you be a Sam Backer in the league?
Let's ask this. If he was to transition and say, you know what, I'm an edge rusher, what do you see his ceiling as far as draft?
I think he's top 10. I think
he's still top 10. Like, is it comparable to Jalen Walker? Because their measurables are probably similar, different body types a little bit, but measurements are similar.
If he's legit 6'3",
yeah, I don't think he's 6'3". I want to say he's 6'2", right? Like, he's probably 6'2".
If he's close to the 6'3" or 6'2" plus, and he's like 240, long arms, stuff like his arms longer than Walker. Like, yeah, I think it would be similar because Walker went 15th overall. He could have gone as high as 8, to the Carolina Panthers, but the Panthers said, you know what, we want to get that missing piece offensively to help Bryce, which we saw look pretty good against in the preseason game against the Browns backups and stuff. Him and Tet, they have a chemistry. You know what I mean? So, like, that could unlock that offense. So I understand the choice. So yeah, I think it could be that situation. I think he's Anthony Hill, if he declares as a true if he plays more edge rusher than linebacker, because that was the thing with Jalen. Jalen didn't have the nuance of a true pass rusher because he played so much off ball. Mm-hmm. And it's like with Anthony, like, when I'm watching his pass rush reps, I'm like, okay, this is a guy that actually he knows what he wants to do. Like, I can go speed the power, I can go speed around the edge, or I can double hand swipe crossface. I can do those things. Where Jalen was kind of like, I call him the Tasmanian devil for a reason. It was just chaotic. Like, Jalen was just like, I'm gonna get back here. I don't really care how I do it. Just know I'm getting to your quarterback. And he did. You know what I mean? Like, ask Kelvin Banks, he did. He got in the backfield a lot against Texas. But, like, it wasn't refined. And I look at Anthony Hill, I think he's more refined as a pass rusher. But I want to see, just tell us who you are. That's my big thing. Like, because if you're just that hybrid tweener, because I think, you tell me if you feel differently. I felt like with Jihad, I felt better with his instincts and dropping off in coverage and stuff as an off-ball backer.
What right now? The athletic profile period was higher, right? Like, just
100%. Like, we saw that at the combine. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, he absolutely blew the combine up. I feel like as an athlete and just an off-ball backer, he projected better than Anthony Hill. So that's why for me it's like, okay, Anthony, are you going to take that step as an off-ball backer that allows us to Micah Parsons, Baron Browning you, and you know what I mean, and just make you that hybrid role in the NFL? Or do we have to play you as a pure edge rusher to get the best out of you? Tell me who you are, Anthony Hill.
Yep, Mr. Anthony Hill, let us know who you are. Tell us who you are. That is the notion. That is the quote heading into the season. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts, to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Guys, coming up later on this week, we are breaking down our top 10 prospects entering the college football season for the 2026 NFL Draft. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.